What's going on, you guys? It's Ariel here, and welcome back to The Gamer's Respite. In today's episode of The Gamer's Respite, you guys are going to hear from my assigning editor, Mark Medina, who has been with IGN for almost 10 years now. We're going to discuss what it's like for me, a freelancer, to do assignments there, and we're also going to be talking a lot about IGN, some misconceptions, and some other things as well. These introductions that you're seeing right now, I've never done for the podcasts before, and I wanted to try it out to see how it would work well with the flow of the podcasts. Enjoy, keep the conversation civil, and let's get into the podcast. I've been wanting to do a podcast for a little bit, discussing what it's like to be a freelancer at IGN, and I thought, who better to discuss it with than the person who...
Someone who's never freelanced for IGN. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I know, right? So, okay, Mark, first of all, I have to ask, how are you? Before we get into any of the nitty-gritty stuff, how are you doing today?
I didn't know we were starting, and I was just like staring off into the distance, and you're like, hello, and I'm like, I'm good. It's Friday. I don't know when this airs, but it's Friday when we're recording, so feeling good. The day's over.
Yes.
And yeah, how are you?
I'm doing excellent. I'm getting more into the game BioShock, and I am oddly enough loving that game. I didn't think I would like it as much as I did because it started out very slow, but here we are. I'm enjoying that game a lot.
BioShock's a very good game. I've never played the second one, but then the third one's also very good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I heard that people have like misgivings about the second one, and they're just like, don't play it. It's like the Dark Souls 2 of the series. I'm like, how does that track?
Maybe. Could be.
So,
I think a lot of people like the second one, but who knows?
Yeah. But today we are here to talk about freelancing at IGN, what it's like, some misconceptions. Mark has been working, correct me if I'm wrong, you've been working at IGN now for almost 10 years.
Yes, it'll be 10 years in October. But if you want to get technical, I've only technically been there for 8.5 years. Because my first year and a half, I was a full-time in-office contractor, which is not something IGN really does anymore. So there wasn't really anything different between that first year and a half to now. But for the record, yeah, I won't hit my 10 years for a little bit here. But yes, I've been with IGN for 10 years. That was a very long way of saying, yes, you are correct. 10 years.
No, but congratulations nonetheless. That is really still an awesome achievement, because I know that during COVID, that's when a lot of this like shifts and changes started to happen with how IGN did their work from home and office work and everything. So yeah, but I want, for everyone who does not know who you are, can you talk a little bit about what you do at IGN?
Yes, what I do right now.
I mean, like what your current position is, like the current ethos of what you do.
So right now, I lead the Wiki's video team. So it's me, and then I have 2 employees under me, and if you watch a video guide on IGN, it went through me. It was not necessarily made by me. It was not even necessarily, as we'll get into in a second, it was not even necessarily made by one of my 2 full-time employees, but it went through me and more than likely got published by me. But yeah, that is my current role.
Very nice, very nice. And whenever you started doing guides, did what you started to do at IGN, was it guides directly, or was it something else entirely that morphed into you doing guides full time?
No, so I didn't do guides for the first. It's hard to know for sure, but in the 10 years, I would say the first 5 or 6. I don't. So it's weird. So basically, what I got hired for was I got hired to be a gameplay person, which means that this was my contractor position. I would get handed some sort of script, a feature, just whatever. Maybe it's a guide, and it would be like, okay, capture all the footage for this, so then it can go into edit, right? So somebody would write, let's say a feature about a top 10 or just whatever, but they didn't capture the gameplay. So then it would be my job to then capture the gameplay. And then from there, I mean, that was more or less my job for the first few years. It kind of eventually evolved into like you make your own videos and you kind of become a features person where you're more involved in the process of writing a top 10 or a feature or whatever. And then I would then capture the gameplay because that was still my job. And then we would do gameplay videos and stuff like that. But eventually, back then, the Wiki team didn't have a video team at all. So they were basically just written. So then if we got a game and we weren't sure what gameplay opportunities there were for said game, we would then default to then making a guide video. And so the gameplay team slowly became this like gameplay first, but if you've done any gameplay, there's only so much gameplay you could show before you're just like, you know, no one needs to see any more of this game. Then we would move to guides. From there, eventually they did get a like wiki video person, and then when that person left, I took over their job, and that's where I'm at now. Because then eventually it was just me, and then eventually the entire gameplay team just got moved to the wikis team. So now we're all wikis people, and now we don't do gameplay at all. Yeah.
Well, there's gameplay in the video if I want to be like really technical.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, and we help from time to time because we get and play all the games. So if someone's like, do a first minutes or do a cool boss or whatever, it's like most of the time we already have that. So we are kind of a hybrid team, but now it's like wikis first. And then if we have time for something else, we'll do something else.
Nice. Okay. Now, because I always make this kind of clear with my audience right beforehand. Either I do a script for these podcasts, or I just don't do a script. These are one of these podcasts. Since he is my signing editor, I want to be very careful with the questions that I did choose and everything. I want to be very particular about it. And one of the things that I did want to ask that was more off the cuff, during your almost 10 years now at IGN, what is the feeling of you've gone through of when you were first hired to now being someone who has been there for almost 10 years? What has that felt like to be working at IGN for so long?
It's weird because I've seen a lot of eras of the company. So I joined right after, like almost right after the Kind of Funny people left. So Greg, Colin, all them, they had just left the company, and I would say I joined, I don't know, maybe 7 months later. I had visited the office before I was ever involved with it. And like Greg was there. I met Greg Miller. That was the first time I ever met him. Several times since. But back in those days, these are for just anybody who follows IGN, like Naomi Kyle was still doing the Daily Fix. Andrew Goldfarb was still on Beyond. And like, it was still that there was a weird shifting moment there where, the Kind of Funny people left, but that era of IGN was still the era that I was in, right? And then I would say within the next couple years, a few people left, but it was kind of more or less who IGN pushed. So then it was like people like, you know, eventually Naomi left, and then Alana Pierce was the Daily Fix person, and then, you know, we kind of had like another cast that was kind of more front and center. And then now when I think about all of those people are now gone. So it became this thing, and everybody always says they have what's the imposter syndrome thing. And so it became this thing where I was like, I feel like this barnacle that's just like stuck to the side of the IGN ship, and like nobody knows who I am. When in reality, I'm kind of one of the longest employees now, which is, I don't know how that happened. But obviously, there's still a ton of people that have been here longer than me. You know, Ryan McCaffrey and Dan Stapleton and Sam Claiborne and all that stuff. But Miranda Sanchez. But I would say I'm pretty up there now and one of the longest running employees. And it does feel weird. I can absolutely, if I had more time to actually like write it out, I could compartmentalize every few years how much the company's changed, and it's changed a lot. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting actually to go through. Yeah, no, I've honestly, like, you know, even though I'm just freelance, it really is. Like I've been being freelance since February now at this point, and I've been having a blast, honestly, with so much.
Whenever Enzoy came out, that's what I'll just always remember as your first game.
Yep, exactly.
And then South of Midnight.
I remember working on Enzoy, and I might get into this, but that was when I did not know at all how to edit like a typical IGN video. And then I remember, what was it? The light bulb just went off. I'm just like, okay, I think I got this now. I know what to do. It was Death Stranding.
I also remember that game fried your computer.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh my god, no, you guys. Enzoi was one of those games of where anytime it would just go into like the the first few minutes of the game, just crash. Or worst case scenario, blue screened my computer. So but now it's like my computer is a beast. It could literally be its own boss in a video game. But one thing I want to get into is for those of you who don't know, 7 out of 10s is a meme that's always discussed within the IGN community. People who read IGN were just like, oh yeah, 7 out of 10 is like the typical score for an IGN game. What is the reason behind why it's been memed so much? Is it just because that's a score that's given a lot, or is there a reason why 7 out of 10 is such a consistent score base for a game at IGN?
So it's funny when you first showed me this question, I was like, because so fun fact, I don't review things for IGN. I've just never had an interest in it. I've reviewed one piece of tech for like an N64 HDMI adapter, and that was it. I've never reviewed a game because I just don't have any interest. I'm sure if I asked, they would let me, but I just don't care. I've never asked. And so at first I was like, I don't know if I could speak to this question but I actually can, because for one, I would like to start by saying I would encourage people to just type into Google IGN 7 out of 10 reviews explainer. And we have a whole article and video explaining this very topic, which is why so many games get a 7, because you're not the first person to ask. And it is a weird like misconception that we give a lot of games a 7. The short version of that article is that, yes, a good amount of games get a 7. But the reason for that is the reason would be like, why don't more games get 10s? Well, 10s are a very coveted score, right? So not very many. We've given 110 this year to a game, which was Donkey Kong Bonanza. The 10 before that was Shadow of the Erdtree. So that shows how long it's been since we've given a 10. Even 9s, like your game has to actually be like true, like when you play a game, it's a 9, right? Something like I don't quote me on this, but something like Blueprints screams a 9 to me. Yeah. Or what's something else recent that may have came out that got a 9?
Baldur's Gate 3. Wouldn't that be considered like a 9 or a 10?
No, Baldur's Gate 3 definitely got a 10.
Okay, good.
But there are certain games that's, to me, a 9 is, it's just right under a 10. So it's like the game's got to be truly great. So the question becomes like, why isn't there things more at the bottom of the scale? And there's a very like kind of obvious reason for that a lot of people probably don't understand. And so I'm going to just more or less kind of quote the article, which is tons of games come out, right? An uncountable amount of video games come out. And we can't review them all. We review 1,000+ things a year, but we can't review everything. And it is a numbers game, like the article says. It's a numbers game where if a game comes out that's not generating any buzz because the game is not good, there's no reason, and it's not generating any buzz, and we think, well, a review for this isn't going to do good. We've done trailers for it, and they didn't even break 10K. Why seek out a game that's unheard of, that is not very good, just to tell our audience that game is not very good? Like, that doesn't really make sense, right? It doesn't make sense in the sense of like, this company already has not that great of a game, so now IGN's going to come out and be like, hey, yeah, and just so everybody knows, your game sucks. And then it doesn't make sense for us because then we don't get clicks from some game nobody's ever heard of. And just to tell people this game's a 3. Now, there are recent examples of games that scored very low, like Mind's Eye, right? Mind's Eye had a ton of attention and all that stuff. So in that sense, it is our job to then tell people, well, before you buy this game, this is what we think of it. And that game got like a 3 or a 4. Another recent one was like Tales of the Shire, right? A lot of people might a lot of people might get that because they think, well, I might want to buy this game because, I love Lord of the Rings. So then we're actually providing a service there by saying, well, we're not saying don't play it. We're just saying we think it's a 4. It's up to you if you then want to play it. But when you boil that all down, we're reviewing games that have people's attentions already, and people just want to know, if the game lined up with the advertising and stuff like that. And so a lot of games just kind of end up being a 7. I don't know how to explain it further than that. But what I would also recommend is people go to our website, you just type IGN reviews, and you can sort it by latest and you can sort it by score, and go click on the 6 and you'll see how many 6s we gave out, or how many 9s, or how many 8s. I think it's just one of those things that when people see the 7, because, and I'm not saying we don't give a lot of 7s, but I think when people see the 7, they think, oh, another 7, and they ignored the past 5 games that got 5s or 6s or 9s or 8s. But I would highly encourage people to go watch Dan's video or read his article explaining why that is a thing. The short version is that a lot of games are 7s, and the reviewer thought they were a 7, so that's why we give a lot of 7s.
Interesting. Yeah, that's fair. And and that's the thing too, of where like there will probably be games even out there of where I had this example when I was working at, what was it, Windows Central, of where I gave Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League I think a 4.5 out of 5, and a lot of people were trashing on that game. And sometimes people will see things subjectively in a different way that someone else might think is absolutely brilliant or absolutely awful. But yeah, no, it's really interesting the way games are scored and the way that they're taken in, like, that to the context of the person who's playing them. So it's really interesting. But when it comes to...
Sorry, the last final thing I'll say about it is when you go from a 100-point scale to a 10-point scale, which is what we've done, that is when you're going to say a lot of the same numbers, right? So a 100-point scale means adding decimals. So some games may be a 7.5 or 7.8 or 6.5 or whatever. But now we're on a 10-point scale, so we don't give decimals. So then that's just kind of, you're going to see more of the same numbers repeated.
That's true. Okay, that makes sense. And I've seen even you guys meme yourselves in a way, the company, of where now they sell T-shirts of the number scale.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I really feel bad for the person who got themselves a 1. It's just like, no, sir, you are not a 1 out of 10. Stop this madness. But to go on to one of the next topics, there's a lot of people who don't know what it's like to necessarily do freelance work at IGN. I see a lot of misconceptions about freelance work at IGN, or the certain things that need to be debunked to a degree. So even when I saw the whole, Gamergate 2.0 happen, a lot of people were coming at certain journalists saying that, oh, you should just do guide work. And now, being someone who does video guide work, I can say it's one of the hardest things I have ever done, but one of the most fun things I have ever done. And being someone who is very much of a type A personality is just like, okay, I want to do it like this, like this, like this. The organization kind of gets flipped on its head because you have to do things a certain way. It's a different kind of organizing things. So when I was doing the guide for all of the hot springs in Death Stranding 2, that was a level of organization and a level of thoroughness that I've never had to do for video before. And it's one of those things of where I think that so many people don't see the work that goes into those guides, and they don't see all the behind the scenes stuff in them, which, I mean, they're not entitled to that, obviously. But I've seen so many people kind of go at guide work as the more simpler form of journalism. You want to speak on that for a second? And why do you think that might be? Because I've seen the complete opposite. It's one of the most hardest things, like the most hardworking aspects I've seen.
I always laugh at the word journalism because I don't see it as journalism, but like I don't know. I don't know what the word journalism even means anymore.
What is this thing called journalism?
Whatever. It's meant so many things, but guides are. I enjoy doing guides because the thing about guides is that there's not much room for opinion there, but there is some still, which is great. Like when you're giving somebody look out for this early weapon or something like that, some sort of guide, you are kind of giving your opinion on this is what I think, or like, we do videos for like skills to do first, and it's like that's kind of an opinion based video because we're saying this is what we think is good because this is how I play the game. If you play the game like this, then this might be good. So there is some opinion there, but then for the example you gave, which is like where all the hot springs in Death Stranding 2, not very much room for opinion. This is just where they are. But I kind of thrive on mechanical work of just figuring out how to do something, where something is, writing down how to do it, and then making a video explaining how to do it. The misconception that it's easy is, I guess, debatable. To some people it's easy. To me, I find it fairly easy. The only issue is that you have to be right. Whereas if you're writing a feature, and I'm not saying a feature or something like that is easy, or a top 10 or something, but you are stating an opinion. So if you're saying, I think Mario 64 is the best Mario game of all time, nobody's in the world would be wrong for saying that. Or if somebody said, I think Hotel Mario for the Philips CDI is the best Mario game, that person's not wrong either. It's just their opinion. Whereas if I say this is how you do this in a game, it can very easily just be wrong, and that's not great. But I me and my team, we take a lot of pride in testing everything and making darn sure that we are correct. We work very collaboratively with each other and with the freelancers, or with just anybody on staff that's playing the game. And well, if you say something like, when this unlocks, and it's like, well, when does it unlock? When did it unlock for you? Oh, it unlocked in chapter 3. Is that when it unlocked for everybody else? Yes. Okay, cool. Then we know we're right. But like sometimes I'll spot on a script where somebody says, when you unlock this, and I'm like, well, when was that? And they're like, oh, I don't remember. And I'm like, well, then you got to figure it out, because this is incomplete the way it is right now. Like, maybe I know, maybe somebody else knows, but we can't just say when you get to this, or when whatever. And so I take a lot of pride in our guides, because I know we try very, very hard to be correct. And obviously mistakes can happen, but I feel like we make very few of them. And but just less about us. If you ever want to get into guide writing, just take something in a game that you don't know how to do it, and then write down your instructions and see if you can make that into a page or a script. And really, that's all there is to it. It's some people try to make it a little bit more than that, and that's where you also get into a little bit of trouble. It really is just, I can't honestly think of a really easier job than doing something and then telling people how to do it. It's really as simple as that.
It also solidifies it more in your own brain, because teaching someone something, ergo teaches you how to do it as well. Mm-hmm. So it's like when I was writing the scripts for the videos for the first time, and I was really like getting into how to like say, well, this is how you do this. Okay, how did you do this? Well, you have to like let people know how you did that, like you were saying. So it was a way that I had never gone about content or guides or anything like that before, because before I come to IGN, I had done guides for like parrying, for how to find certain things in Bloodborne or Elden Ring and everything, but it wasn't as in-depth as I was ever asked to do it at IGN. And I feel like that's one of the coolest things ever, is where I was learning how to do something that I had just no idea how to do before, even though I had already done it to a degree, if that makes sense. So
yeah, and so my part in it is I do write a lot of guides, but I also edit a lot of guides, and it's taken a little bit of practice, but I've gotten to the point where I can kind of notice when someone, not going to say like they didn't play correctly, but where I feel like they're leaving out information that could be there. And so that's kind of where my job is a little bit different than everybody else's, is because it's my job to like challenge their guides, right? Like I could read a guide and be like, yep, this seems like it makes complete sense. But then sometimes I'm like, like, and because I'm on video, I can do this more on video, where what they're saying doesn't exactly match up with the screen. And there have absolutely been times where I'm like, well, I don't, am I allowed to put you on blast a little bit?
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
So Death Stranding's map is a very confusing map, because it's one of the rare video game maps that you can rotate and turn around. And in your video, you would say certain things like, go west from this. And I'm like, you're showing it on screen, and I can tell that your map is not oriented correctly. So when you're saying go west, which you actually mean go north. But instead of having you rewrite the directions, I instead helped you figure out how to orient your map correctly and make it. And it's like the video ends up being so much better for it, because I could tell that you were getting a little lost, and I was like, if she's getting lost, I'm getting lost, and if I'm getting lost, the audience is going to get lost. And that's the kind of stuff that, like, that's what I spend my day doing, is watching videos and trying to put myself in the shoes of the audience and being like, is this going to make sense to them? Is this correct?
Are they going to actually be like, wait a second, something's off here, or be like, oh no, I can follow this word for word, you know? So that's the thing too, of where, like, even something else I just thought of where it's like something that's overly simplistic, of how, like, I remember, what was it, one of the videos that I did for Dragon Wilds. That video for finding all of the ghosts had to have been one of the most tedious videos I ever tried to do, because you're finding all the ghosts, you have to find them at a certain hour, and something that I think is so simple in my head, it's like, oh yeah, sure, you just do this, this, and this, but when writing it out, it's a different story entirely, because you have to put all of those things that you think are simple in your head and put it all into descriptives, that way people can follow along with you. So it's a very different kind of job. I would absolutely, like, recommend people to get into freelancing for guides, because it's fun. First of all, it really is so much fun, but also you get to think about games in a different way entirely.
Yeah, and there's an art to the video side as well. You can, no matter how good of a writer you are, you know, I'll watch people's collectible videos or whatever, and I'll kind of be like, you could, you know, you're a camera at that point showing people how to do something, and so sometimes people struggle with that as well. And so I say it's easy. Maybe it's not that easy. I think I've just been doing it a long time. But my thing has always been that if I can do it, anybody can do it, because I self-taught myself on how to do it all. So, but
I didn't go to
there is a
school for
little bit
video
to
editing
it.
either. Yeah, so I didn't go for school for video editing either. So for me, it's like all self-taught. I've been doing this for 9 years, but not this in particular. So, like, for people who don't know, I've been doing content creation for 9 years. My first ever job in the gaming industry was with Game Informer, doing a couple of videos for them. I mean, what, you know, kind of job to get as your first job, right? I mean, like, it was one of those weird moments of where it's just like, I get to freelance for Game Informer? Cool beans, this is so awesome. But yeah, I was like hippity hopping around, feeling like, okay, this is pretty awesome. Now let me move on to something, you know, more and more. And I feel like anybody who wants to do this kind of thing, you just have to work really hard at trying to get your feet into the water and practicing video editing. That's like the number one skill I would say any person in this industry needs to have, is video editing.
Yeah, I don't want to make it sound dire, but there's a lot of writers out there. There's a lot. And it's something that I always encourage people to do, is, you know, learn Photoshop, learn Adobe Premiere Pro, or any kind of video editing, because if you're only a writer, that's fine. But you are competing against a lot of writers, where you know, when I'm looking for freelancers, I'm looking for a very specific type of, like, person that can edit, and sometimes I know it when I see it. Like, I just got someone new that they made their first video for me, and it blew me away. And like, they knew how to use our graphics, their VO was excellent, and it's just like they blew me away. And I was like, well, you're like not only part of the roster, but like I'm putting you on as many things as I can. That happens, right? And then there are certain other people. Every time I get somebody new, I always try to figure out like where they fit in, because I do I do a lot of different things. We do walkthroughs, we do tips, we do short videos, super advanced stuff. And so it's like, I like to see where people kind of fit in. And it usually doesn't take long for people to kind of show me where they belong. But what's great about what I do is that because there's so many levels to what I'm doing when it comes to, like, again, like collectibles or walkthroughs or high scripts, is like there kind of is a place for everybody's skill level. Like, you have to know how to video edit, obviously, but I could be like, yeah, this person is good for like short how-tos, but I probably wouldn't give them anything more than that. Or like, whoa, this person kills it at collectibles. This is my collectibles person. So it's a lot of judging, and luckily I've built what I consider a world-class wikis freelance team. So don't take them from me. Nobody can have them. They're all mine.
It's one of those things too of where like you said, you just know when the person has their shit together. You know, it's just like whenever I see someone's video, or like if I'm watching someone in the Soulsborne community who's new, I can just tell like if they're passionate about what they're doing or not. You know, and I see them get so excited over a boss, or I see them get so excited like over certain things that they're doing. It's just like, oh yeah, no, they're in it for the right reasons, or no, they're just in it to like think that they're going to make money overnight with this because it's difficult games and everything like that. So yeah, there's a lot of people who get into it for the wrong reason, but I can understand what you mean entirely. One of the things I wanted to get into next was guide writing. Now we already debunked that, you know, being the simplest job or whatnot depends on the person, but we're going to go into next what it's like being a freelancer at IGN. Now, I know you can't talk from this perspective, but I'm going to give my little bit of 2 cents into how I felt about freelancing at IGN. And freelancing in general to a degree, because one thing that I kind of want to just clear the air out is that people are like, oh, your boss this, your boss that. No, we don't have bosses. Freelancers do not have bosses. We have assigning editors. We have people who
most
are
freelancers freelance for like 4 or 5 different websites.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have like assigning editors who, like yourself, who will give us assignments, and then they are due at like, they're not even due like at particular times. They are just given like a rough timeline to be like, okay, you can do this, but get it to me like within roughly this amount of time.
I think that's usually just me. I'm sure other assigning editors are like, you know, my are more strict. My priority is always just like being correct. And so when somebody's like, oh man, I'm not gonna have this video done by tomorrow, and I'm like, if it's a better video because you need to take an extra day, that's okay. Like, we're not curing cancer. We're making video game videos. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, maybe IGN thinks it's more of a deal, but I just don't, and I don't. It's fine.
Well, that's the approach that I really kind of enjoy, seeing it from, because when, for example, I worked at Windows Central, our deadlines were kind of more on the stricter side. Like, okay, you have to get it by embargo, or you have to get it by this time or this time. But and even though that was still freelance, we were still kind of like treated as if we were full-time people to a degree, which I've always thought was very interesting. But whenever it came to IGN stuff, I thought it was such a 360 because it was more lenient, first of all, in terms of when things were due. And second of all, I thought it was so much more kind of relaxed in terms of how freelancers are thought, and we are respected just as much as the people who are full-time there, or maybe that's just my perception going into it.
Well, I mean, everyone's people. So I don't live in a world where someone's better than somebody else because they work at a company full time versus somebody freelancing. Like, I think what's different for me, and people talk about imposter syndrome, and I kind of, everybody says they have it, but I do think that I kind of have it worse than a lot of people, and that's because like you say, you've worked for a couple of different websites, and a lot of freelancers work for a couple of different websites. I haven't. I only have ever worked for IGN. I don't know what it's like to work for any other company, because before IGN, I worked for a warehouse here in my hometown for Fry's Electronics. And so like that was where I worked. I lifted boxes and I shipped things. It was a return center warehouse. And so that's what I did. And then I started going up to San Francisco to try to go to IGN events to try to like meet people. And then I kind of just got lucky where I'm a big Fallout fan, and right before Fallout 4 came out, they were like wanting to do a bunch of features for leading up to Fallout. And so my first video for IGN is called Fallout in 5 minutes, and it's basically a full story recap of all the Fallout games before Fallout 4 came out. And so it's not my voice, it's not even my editing, it's just my capture. But I went up to San Francisco and I lived up there for a week, and I did that. And then they were like, great, good job. And then I went back home and worked at my warehouse job for another month, and then went back up and started doing the contracting thing for Fallout 4. And so that kind of like, I didn't have any sort of like training or anything. Everything was self-taught. I would just go to the office, I'd work there for 8 hours, and then I'd go home, and I lived with like a roommate, and I would just like learn how to be better at editing or learn how to do Photoshop or whatever. All the things that I know how to do is just me just teaching myself how to do it. So 10 years later, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm a manager at IGN, but like, for one, anybody in this industry can lose their job in a second, and then I'm just a freelancer like everybody else. For two, I was a person just trying to break in, for a long time. And so there's never any reason to not treat people. That's a very long-winded way of saying that, like, there's no reason I wouldn't treat freelancers like they're the greatest, because they are the greatest. They're my favorite.
I mean, we are, but that's besides the point. But it's one of those cool things of where it's just like, another thing to mention with working, like doing freelance work at IGN has taught me a new level of understanding how the industry works as well, because whenever I see like one of my guides pop up on IGN's YouTube channel, or I see like my words on a page or something like that, it is this weird kind of imposter syndrome feeling of where it's like, this is a massive company, like what are my words doing over there, what's my editing doing over there? Like it felt like for the first couple of months when I was doing freelancing, it was so weird to see my stuff there. Like I don't know. It was just like, that was my perception of it, because it just felt so weird, and I was like so taken aback, because IGN devs reacts, like getting to edit certain projects, it was like a pinch me moment, because I had been watching IGN for so long that it was just like this dream come true for me to get to even do this to begin with. So it's like, whoa, okay, this is pretty cool.
There is a part of that I always forget, because that has completely worn off on me. I don't even think about it. Like, it's just my job. And so I don't get any sort of like tickles when I post a video and I'm like, that's my video on IG. I've that's completely worn off. But I always enjoy when other people are like, I saw my video went live, and like, it's crazy, and you always like geek out over your own videos going live. But
do. And especially when I got to edit like a devs react to Indiana Jones, that was such a whirlwind for me, because I remember watching the devs react for what was it? Oh my god, Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and I remember one of the devs saying, I worked so hard on that. And that just made me like fall in love with the series, because it was one of those moments where I was like, man, I would love to edit one of those videos someday, and here we are. Manifestation, ahoy. So,
it's a good show. Everyone should watch it.
Yeah, it really is. It's a fantastic show. I also wanted to mention, before we go on to the next topic, that freelancers, people who want to do freelancing at IGN, please, I cannot stress this enough, learn how to not only do video editing, but keep a strict schedule with yourself to help your insomnia if you struggle with insomnia. Because one thing that I've noticed is, ever since I started freelancing with IGN, I have kept a stricter schedule for myself. I didn't have as strict of a schedule for myself, for sleeping, going to bed and everything. But now it's like, okay, I can do, I have people who are relying on me to get shit done. I have people who are relying on me to have projects done. And yes, it's not a full-time thing. I want to keep restating that, because people get that convoluted sometimes of where they're thinking, well, it's an actual job. No, it's still a freelance gig, but you still have to be responsible, and you still have to be held accountable for everything that you're doing. So maintain a working sleep schedule. That's something I would highly recommend.
There's bouts of busyness, right? Like, we get certain games where it's like I get I get overwhelmed, right? I'm working on stuff. One of my employees is working on stuff. I'm managing like 8 freelancers at a time, all working on that thing. They all have scripts they need me to read. And then nothing, and then it's like the next week it's over. And so it's funny, because it's exciting for me too. I love the moments when a game comes in. And so the only time I'll say that I'm really like strict when it comes to things, and I still wouldn't say I'm that strict, but when we get a game early, yeah, surprise, outlets get games early. Everyone knows that. When you get a game early, there is that like limited time where you're like, okay, we have this for 2 weeks before it comes out. And so what I'll do is I will reach out to people that are like, who is free for the next 2 weeks? Because if somebody's like, oh, I really want to work on this game, but I'm going on vacation, then it's like, well, then I'm probably not going to have you work on the game because you're going to just be gone the whole time. And so that is the only time. And I love those moments, even still, even doing this as long as I've done it. I still love, I start a group chat with everybody on Discord and I'm like, all right, guys, the coach be here soon, whatever, these are everyone's assignments, whatever. And then the game comes in and then, we all get added to a big channel and we all just kind of work together and it's always so fun. And then the game comes out and you're just like, we did it. And and then a few people will be done and they'll invoice and they'll be off and people kind of, it gets a little sad, right? Like you started with this whole team and then people kind of like trail off because their work is done and we don't need them for anything further. But what's great about video games is there's always another one about to come out. And so yeah, like I'll get super excited when like Death Stranding shows up and everybody's like, everyone plays the game and then you get to just like talk with 8 of your, friends for the most part and being like, hey, what do you guys think of the game? Like those are always exciting times. And I always can't wait for the next one because I just I like games, but I love working with people and I love people that are excited to do the work.
That's how I felt when Death Stranding 2 came out, because whenever I was, when we were all in the group chat and we were all discussing the work that we were doing, I was just like, I feel like we're on a top secret mission right now. This is so much fun. And it was just so one of those moments of where it was like, we were all chatting about like the different things we were finding in the game. Like I remember getting to a Tommy's Pizza and just like, oh my God, I was rolling in laughter at that cutscene. And then I was talking about with other people who were in the chat and they were like, yo, you found this cutscene yet? And it was hilarious. It was one like some of the most memorable moments ever because we'll all be sharing screenshots in there. And it's the same thing with Enzoy. Like everyone was sharing their Zoys. Everyone was going about like sharing like what kind of stuff they were doing. Which I highly recommend diving back into Enzoy. By the way, their DLC might be coming out soon, so keep a lookout for that.
All 12 people still playing are going to be stoked to hear that.
Oh Lord, oh no, the shade. No, it's okay. Enzoy is actually pretty fun, you guys. You should check it out. It's like a better version of The Sims. But whenever I was thinking about it, there was one thing about freelance I forgot to mention that I want to mention briefly here is that I don't want people thinking that while yes, it is fun, yes, it is a joy to be able to get to do freelancing work and video guide work, it can get to those moments of where it is tedious. It is one of those moments of where it's like you are going to be up some nights until 12 midnight finding a section in the game where the camera angle is just right that you want the video to showcase a certain thing. So yes, it's fun, but it's also fucking tedious at certain points because you want things to be precise, not only for your, for what you were trying to show, but so the viewer can get the most out of the guide you were giving to them.
Yeah, I mean it's a job, and I have pretty high standards with how videos look. Like if you're giving me a bunch of footage that's like at night and stuff like that, and I want to be that person that then like just like holds the controller for you, and I'm like, do it like this is how I want it to look, because I do overthink that stuff quite a bit, but it's because I know what I would look for when I look up a guide. And that is what I'm more or less trying to emulate. Like, would I use this guide, or would I, if I didn't want to use your hot springs video to find all the hot springs in Death Stranding 2, then I wouldn't accept it as a video, because like, why would I be like, yeah, this is good enough? I would use somewhere else though. Like, that's silly. But at the thing I always just try to stress, and I don't want to downplay anybody's work in this industry, but also like it's just games. It's just video games. Like we're not saving the world. And so it's like, so if it's not fun, then like what are we doing here? Like you got to have a little bit of fun. You got to have a little bit of like very privileged to be able to do this kind of work, and I don't take that for granted at all. And I try to make a fun work environment for everybody that works with me, and I try to not ever be stressed or anything. I don't think I've ever been like angry at a freelancer or anything like that, except for Samantha Giambra. But that's just daily. I'm joking. I love her. But yeah, it's not that serious. It's just games. You got to have fun, but also you got to do the work.
Yeah. I now I'm thinking of what it's going to be like when Grand Theft Auto. I don't know why I confuse those two. I can't.
You don't want to work on Call of Duty? All right, that's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna
right.
pay whoever worked on Call of Duty $1 million.
No, I mean, there's probably going to be Call of Duty like the Rocky movies. That's how many are going to come out. It's going to be so interesting when Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out. That is going to be chaos. I don't think I've ever seen a level of chaos that will bring, because that will like literally that will be the most popular game for the next 10 years is what I'm predicting.
Yeah, probably. I'm very excited for Grand Theft Auto. I'm a big GTA 5 fan.
Yeah. Oh, you see, the first, what was it? The first, just to go on like a mini tangent for a second, the first Grand Theft Auto I fully played was 5. And that was a very interesting experience. I enjoyed it a lot. The dialogue was fantastic. I know people have like called me out on this before, but I did not like the torture scene whatsoever. I was like,
a lot of people don't, and that's okay. You're allowed to not like that scene.
Yeah. But the characters were fantastic. I love the dialogue. You know, it kind of showed me where they were going towards in terms of how they were going to do Red Dead Redemption 2. And I thought that was fantastic. So, but on to our next topic, which is our top games we enjoyed doing guides on. I want to start with you first.
This year or ever?
It could be ever or this, like basically both, you know, like from the time you started until now, like your top that you've done.
So yeah, I have a few standouts. So for this year, so it's very rare that Mark is like I'm working on this game, right? It's like, because I manage, especially if the bigger the game is, the least likely it is I get to work on it, right? Because I have to be, you know, helping people build pages, screening scripts, blah blah blah, looking at trends, all that fun stuff. And so maybe I'll try to dabble with the game, but like I won't really ever get to like cover it. But there are certain times where I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm covering this game. And so Death Stranding 2 obviously was one of the ones this year where a lot of the videos that exist on our channel, you're gonna hear my voice because I'm the one that, like, I have a Death Stranding tattoo. Like, no one was going to stop me from making Death Stranding videos, and it was hard because like everybody else had moved on and I'm over here still making Death Stranding videos because I would just like you know, I was working towards the platinum and I would find something that I'm like, this could be a good guide, and I would just make it because I'm like, I didn't want to let the game go, because some games just kind of expire where, you know, you put up videos and they're doing noticeably worse than when they first came out because, you know, audience has moved on. But for guides, so many things have long tails that I'm like, you know, whatever. Even if this doesn't do, maybe it'll help somebody else down the line. And that is worth it to me to still put this live. So Death Stranding this year was definitely the game I've liked working on the most. Another recent one that I've loved working on is Stellar Blade, because not only do I really love Stellar Blade and some of the best music in video games ever, but they keep coming out with like what is it called? You know, collabs with even their own games like Nikkei and but you know, just a few other things like Nier Automata and stuff like that. And every time that, like, if you go look, we have Nikkei guides, and I think it's Nikkei. We have Nikkei guides. We have Nier Automata, like how to find all the stellar tiers. Like, I made those, and I made those just because I love the game, and I'm like, I'm going to find these anyway, so I might as well just, you know, get paid to do it, I guess, and just, you know, make a video of it. That's one of those games where it's almost like it's reached Death Stranding levels of reputation with me, where if something happens with Stellar Blade, people at IGN are like, so is Mark covering it? Is Mark making a video? Is Mark jumping back in? And the answer is yeah, probably, because I do like that.
I just can't imagine when Stellar Blade 2 comes out. That's going to be just a pivotal moment. That's going to
it'll be a fun one. I'll never forgive Mitchell Saltzman, one of my employees. I'll never forgive him for giving Stellar Blade a 7 when that game is obviously an 11 out of 10. It broke the scale. Mitchell, that's how good it is.
Mitchell, we love you, but also what the hell,
dude. And then one that I'll just always have a place in my heart, controversial but whatever, is Hogwarts Legacy, because that was the first game I ever made. Like, when I got hired to be the video guides, at that time I wasn't the video guides manager. I was just the video guides person. There was nobody else. That was the first game. So that was the first game that I had freelanced a few people before that on various things, but that was the first one where I'm like, hi, nice to meet you, people who my predecessor had hired. Now we're working on this game. And like, that was my first, like, managing 7 people all working towards making guides for one game, and like going through, playing the game with them and being like, yep, this is what we should make a guide on, and this is what we should make it. So like, that one will always kind of have a little bit of a special place, because that was my first, like, bigger gig when I got this position. So yeah, those are my standouts. I've done a lot of guides. So
yeah. See, I can't wait to get to that point where I can like just pick from a list like that. But so far, I have a little bit of a list where despite having such a rough time getting through the video, I really enjoyed finding all the ghosts in Dragon Wilds. I really loved doing that video. I loved doing the hot tub guide for Death Stranding 2. I love that guide so much. Oh my god. No, that was one of I originally, a little behind the scenes for you guys, I was originally going to do a all weapons location guides, but that was turning out to be quite a feat to get every single weapon, describe all of them, put it into a script, all that kind of stuff. And it was one of those things that were like, it wouldn't have the longevity that the website and like the YouTube would have needed necessarily. It wouldn't have been evergreen content. So I think hot tubs would have been evergreen content more so, and that was such a fun guide to be able to do and write out. The other one, and there was another one in there. Shadow Labyrinth, getting to do the boss guide for the what was it, the G host. That was so much fun to do that, and it was like really cool getting to see a Metroidvania game based in Pac-Man. Like that was just hilarious, and that was everything to me. So those are my top 3 guides that I've done so far that I really enjoyed doing.
Yeah, I remember one of your first things you did was you got paid to play through all of South of Midnight. That was a fun time.
Yes, oh my god, South of Midnight is still my game of the year. Like, hands down. I loved it so much. I really enjoyed that game. And getting to do, that was the last walkthrough that was on the main page before you guys were like, no, we're not doing walkthroughs anymore.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say we're not doing any anymore. It's things just change all the time. So who knows? It's whatever Mark wants, and it's whatever mood he's in.
Yeah, I found it kind of interesting because I saw the comments whenever we put that, when that walkthrough went up on like the main page of IGN instead of the guides channel. I saw people's comments and they were like, what's going on? Why is this here? And I was just kind of laughing my ass off like, okay, you guys.
Which we've done before. People are just silly.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to leave this in. This is going to be my new way of video editing.
I'm on a podcast and we rarely cut no matter what goes wrong.
No, I spend like literally the entire time going through like different things. Like if I sneeze, I cut out the audio underneath. If I cough, audio underneath is cut.
If you watch the most recent episode of Game Scoop, at the end of it, it's just me and Justin Davis talking about egg salad sandwiches because Damon had to like, his camera died. And so he's like, hey, Mark, guess what we're having for dinner? And we just left it all in. We're like, well, he's dealing with that. Eggs are great.
That's fantastic.
That's why we're the number 4 podcast for gaming in the world. Fucking idiots. We're done.
Wait, tell him to try egg salad with tomatoes, diced up tomatoes. Chef's kiss.
I bet he would. I like putting Doritos on egg salad sandwiches. Anyways, leave that in because your audience needs to know.
What? Okay, I'll leave that in per request, but I need to try that because that sounds strange. Hashtag. But continuing on, besides the Doritos, what is something you hope / want people to understand about IGN that often gets overlooked, either because people are being miscreants, they don't understand the work that goes into IGN, whatever it may be?
Yeah, there's a few, and I'm gonna we'll start with the audience, which is a misconception is that IGN is not good at video games. Is everybody at IGN good at video games? No, of course not. Do we have really good people at video games? Absolutely. Mitchell is one of like 3 people on Earth that beat Elden Ring before the game came out. He had like a week to beat that game. No guides, nothing. Even I beat Shadow of the Erdtree before it came out, and that was before they nerfed Radon. Okay, so you guys could, so there's this weird misconception about like, oh, journalism mode, and it's like because of that. Are you familiar with the Cuphead video?
I vaguely, not entirely, know.
There's a video, and I won't even say who it was, but there's a video a long time ago of somebody like failing the tutorial of Cuphead. And when things like that happen, it's fine. People are at an event, and events can be stressful and loud and annoying, and so it's whatever. But then you get put in this weird box where it's like everybody in journalism, every games journalist, whatever, buddy that works at IGN is not good at games, and it's like, well, that's stupid. So that's always one thing that irks me, because I run a team of people that like are very good at games. So it's always a bummer. So we try our best, but it's one of those things where it's like, well, we can make 100 videos of someone being good, and then one video, someone will slow down to 0.25% speed, and you'll see them miss a bunch of shots. And it's like, oh, classic games journalism gameplay. And you're like, all right, well, you send me your video of you never missing, and we'll post that instead. I'll even pay you for it. That's the beauty of it. If you're so much better, then come play and I'll pay you. But you can't be a dick. Anyways, another misconception, and this is more of a social media driven one, is that IGN is a faceless entity that if you ever get a job here, you ever work here, we're what you would call a content farm. And that just doesn't make any sense. Have you looked at our website? What about our website is a content farm? So content farms are not to drag them too much because I don't know too much about them, but like places like Dexerto, right? That like they just kind of write about everything, and they're just, they're telling the writers you have to do a certain amount of stories per, and everybody's freelance, and there's not a ton of standards. And it's like, you look at IGN, and I would love to, I don't know where people get that misconception. I think it's just because we're big that like people think, and so I see people from other outlets, that supposedly have friends at IGN, that it's just like IGN is just this weird faceless entity that doesn't actually care about games. And if you get a job there, it's just going to be, you're just going to be a content farm. And it's like, do I make you do content farming, Ariel, or do I give you games to play? And like, so it's one of those weird things that I don't know where, I think it just comes from our size. I think it comes from like IGN's so big, and we're owned by this big corporation. It's like, yeah, but IGN itself has a lot of freedom to do whatever we want. And I get very protective of my coworkers, because I see what everybody works on. I'm in meetings with them all day. I see on Slack all day what everybody's talking about. And it's like, you couldn't be paired with a more passionate group of people that love video games and love this work and stuff like that. And so then when I see people from other websites who know the frustrations on how this job can be talk bad about IGN, I'm just kind of like, well, that's a bummer, because like, you are our peers in a way, and people have this just like weird notion of IGN that is unfortunate sometimes. Like, I get websites wanting to be, small and scrappy and stuff like that, and that's not really what IGN is. Our social team is huge, bigger than most of editorial staffs and stuff like that. But it's like, but that doesn't make us any less passionate about what we do. And for every person who thinks that that's what we are, it's like I would love to be able to open the curtains one day and just be like, and have you sit in a top 10 meeting, or have you sit in just one of our morning meetings and hear all the content that people are excited about, and be happy about the things they made and the stuff, content they were able to produce. And so,
And not only that, as a side note, if I can't discuss this, please let me know and I'll take it out. But whenever we are asked to do guides, or if we're ever asked to do like different, things that we're interested in from the games that you supply to us, you're like, okay, give me ideas, give me things of what you want to create guides on. And that's the thing of where it's just like, you guys, we are responsible solely for the guides that we do. I edit my own guides. I do the voiceovers for my own guides, unless it's something like, for example, Matt Kim, he will be sorely missed at IGN, who I got to do a entire video with him, and I got to like get my own footage for a video that he was working on, and I thought that was absolutely incredible. So a lot of creativity is still left in our hands to be able to do a video how we wish to do it, even though there are still guidelines that we have to keep to, obviously, with like the graphics that are inserted, the way that we do the voiceovers, but the majority is left up to us to do.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. When it comes to something like Death Stranding 2, right? I'd watched all the trailers before the game came out. I knew that the game was going to be fairly similar to the first one. And so I right off the bat know of a few things that I would want people to make. But yeah, a lot of most of what we made past that first like wave of videos is just, play the game and tell me what you think we should make, and then I make the decision. I'll talk with a freelancer and be like, okay, do we think this will really help? Do we think this is like worth it? Because obviously it all comes down to clicks as well. That's, the nature of the industry. You can't work for free. And so I have to know that what you're making is something that's going to actually help people and actually somewhat perform. And so those things don't always go hand in hand. Sometimes I'm like, make this because I know it'll perform. And sometimes I'm like, make this and maybe it'll perform, but regardless, maybe over the next year or two it'll perform, but it'll help people because I make those videos as well. But yeah, there's never, I don't just come up with a list of, and I'm just like, make these. And it's like, well, this was easy. And I'm like, I don't care. Make it anyways. Like sometimes, because it's just easy common denominator stuff. It's like sometimes I have data to show that what I'm asking you to make is worth it, maybe beyond what you see, right? Like how to change your character appearance in Dragon Age the Veilguard, right? The answer is after the prologue, you turn around and you look at the mirror. Not everybody's going to know that mirror is there. Is that hard? No, it's a very easy guide to make. It's a guide I made. Because to me, like that's an easy win, telling somebody how to do something and just doing it. And that's just me wanting to make it. But a lot of the times it's, it is based off trends or opinions and what we want. But
and not only that, like some won't even make it into video guides. Some will be just used as pages, like how to like something in Death Stranding 2 or how to soothe Lou,
Yeah, exactly. There are all sorts of gamers out there that need help in every different kind of way, and we try to help them all, right? There are people like Mitchell where we're like, make an advanced combat guide, because there are some people that don't need a beginner's guide for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. They want to know advanced stuff, but then there are people that need to know how to change your hairstyle in Hogwarts Legacy, and we want to help them as well. And so, yeah. But yeah, that's a big misconception, is that IGN is just this weird, like, faceless entity. And it's like, well, here I am. Come to IGN Live. Yeah. You'll have a lot of fun.
Literally. Yeah, it's like, here we are. We're showing ourselves front and center for everyone to, compliment and criticize, So it's one of those interesting things about the work, whether it's freelance, full-time, whatever it is. I feel like we are putting ourselves out there so much for people to either give us compliments, criticize, ridicule, whatever the thing is that at the end of the day, it's like, we're still people. We still do work in this industry, and we still have fun doing it. Like you said, it's just about games. It's not like we're saving the world or doing anything. We're giving people a distraction from all of the crap that goes on in the world right now.
Mm-hmm. You play a game, you get stuck, Mark's there to help you.
Yeah. And then I'm here to provide nasally quality within my videos, so you're welcome for that as well, you guys.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
But I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Mark, thank you so much for joining me today and debunking some stuff about IGN and talking about freelance stuff, all the above. So before I go, I do want to ask, what are you playing right now that you can talk about?
There's nothing I'm playing right now that I can't talk about. So let's see. Marvel Rivals 3.5 just released today, so I'll be playing that all evening. I started playing Mafia. That's pretty fun. And then I've been playing a lot of Grow a Garden, which is like a Roblox game. I never thought Mark Medina would be playing a Roblox game, but here I am addicted to this freaking gardening game. And then I just got the Platinum Trophy for Death Stranding 2. So I've been released from that prison. So that's nice.
Very nice. As of right now, I am playing BioShock. I am playing on the Steam Deck Dark Souls 3 again, because that game will not leave me alone. And I'm exploring different things because I'm going to be doing a review, a Souls and Souls-like review for the Steam Deck, which I'm very excited about. The Steam Deck is actually really a cool piece of tech. I'm enjoying it so far.
I left the Steam Deck. I don't use it as often as because I don't go anywhere. So it's like, whatever. And I'm mostly a PlayStation gamer. But the times that I've needed, like Hades 2 was the perfect Steam Deck game. That's what I've used it for the most, is stuff like that.
Yeah, I use it a lot for cozy games, and what I'm finding that I'm using it the majority for is either Hades 2 or, oh my gosh, what is it? No, is it Tales or Fields of Mysteria? I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head. Fields of Mysteria. And it's a lot brighter of a version of Stardew Valley. If you guys want to get into it, it's very cozy, it's very cute, it has a storyline, very nice. The other one that's actually runs really well on there, surprisingly, is Baldur's Gate 3. I never thought that game would run well on there. So, but you guys, again, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. But I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, night, wherever you are. May your coffee treat you well and life give you a nat 20. I will see you all in the next one. Bye, you guys.
What's a nat 20?
A nat 20 is a critical success in Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm not a nerd. That's why I didn't know.